On a chilly autumn evening in a small, charming UK town, the golden lights of Riverside Bistro flickered warmly, casting a cozy glow on the cobblestone street. The restaurant, famous for its homemade pies and fragrant coffee, always seemed to draw in people looking for comfort and good food. Tonight, the air was filled with laughter, clinking cups, and the subtle sound of a violin playing soft melodies in the background. Inside, Sophie Bennett, a cheerful young woman with bright hazel eyes and a contagious smile, moved swiftly between tables. Her energy lit up the place, and everyone seemed to enjoy her presence. She was known not just for her efficiency, but for her kindness and the way she remembered the little things about people. The bell above the door jingled, and a man stepped in, wearing a plain gray coat and a woolen scarf wrapped snugly around his neck. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence that seemed out of place here. He glanced around cautiously, taking in the warm interior. The man's name was Oliver Hastings, but no one in town knew that. To them, he was just another visitor seeking a warm meal. In truth, Oliver was a millionaire, someone who lived in a world of luxury and private jets. But tonight, he had left all that behind. He wanted to be invisible, to see life as ordinary people did, without the weight of his reputation. Oliver walked slowly to the counter, where Sophie was arranging fresh flowers. She looked up with a bright, welcoming smile. "Good evening, sir. How can I help you tonight?" she asked, her voice warm and melodic. Oliver nodded slightly, returning a polite smile. "Good evening," he said softly. "I'd like a table for one, please." Sophie's eyes sparkled with friendly curiosity as she led him to a small table near the window, where candlelight flickered gently. As Oliver settled into his chair, he took a moment to observe the room. Couples whispered, friends laughed, and families shared stories. The atmosphere was vibrant yet intimate, a place where people felt safe and welcomed. And then, his eyes found her again. Sophie moved gracefully from table to table, her laughter ringing like music. There was something about her, so genuine and unpretentious, that made Oliver pause. He felt a strange pull, a curiosity he hadn't felt in years. His heart, usually guarded, skipped a beat. He picked up the menu but hardly looked at it. Instead, he kept glancing at Sophie, noticing the small things, the way she tilted her head when she listened, the gentle way she handled a crying toddler, the sparkle in her eyes when she smiled at a regular. Oliver had seen many beautiful faces, but none seemed to carry warmth like hers. Just as he began to wonder how he could speak to her without revealing his identity, the restaurant door opened again, and a small group of children ran in. One of them tripped near Sophie, and without missing a beat, she rushed to help, steadying the boy with a gentle hand. Oliver watched, fascinated by her instinctive kindness. He couldn't explain why, but he felt drawn to her. Something inside him whispered that this evening would not be ordinary. Just then, Sophie approached his table, holding a notepad and pen. "Have you decided what you'd like, sir?" she asked politely. Oliver shook his head slowly, still mesmerized. I'm not sure yet," he replied honestly. "Everything smells amazing." Sophie chuckled softly, her laughter like a gentle breeze. "Take your time," she said, giving him a reassuring smile before moving on. As Oliver waited, he overheard snippets of conversation. People spoke of small-town gossip and upcoming festivals. But one conversation caught his attention. A little boy, no older than 7, whispered excitedly to Sophie, "Do you know who the secret guest is today?" Sophie's smile faltered slightly, and she shook her head. "I'm not sure," she replied softly. Oliver's curiosity piqued. Who was this secret guest, and why did it matter? He leaned forward slightly, trying to listen without being noticed. The boy giggled, and Sophie laughed along, but the words hung in the air, mysterious and inviting. Oliver took a sip of his tea, his mind racing. He thought about his life in the city, filled with pressure and meetings, and realized how much he'd missed this simplicity. Here, everything seemed pure and real. And Sophie, her presence, her laughter, the way she cared, was unlike anything he had ever encountered. He felt a strange mixture of admiration, curiosity, and something more he couldn't yet name. Time passed quickly, and the restaurant began to fill. Oliver noticed how effortlessly Sophie handled the rush, guiding staff, calming diners, and still managing to smile. It was as if she had a magic touch, turning a busy evening into something pleasant. He watched her soothe a young couple, her words making them feel special. Oliver's mind wandered. Could someone like Sophie really exist? Someone so kind, so untouched by greed? Then, a small incident made his heart skip a beat. A waiter accidentally dropped a tray, sending a plate skidding toward the floor. Without hesitation, Oliver rose and caught the plate just before it hit the ground. Sophie turned to him, her eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, thank you, sir," she said, her voice sincere. Oliver smiled awkwardly, feeling an unusual warmth. "No problem," he replied, quietly returning to his seat. Their hands had brushed slightly, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. A spark ignited, a subtle connection that neither fully understood but both sensed. The evening continued, and Oliver's thoughts kept returning to Sophie. He wanted to know her, yet he knew he had to remain in disguise. If she knew who he was, the moment would change. For now, he was content to watch and feel the pull of something new and compelling. As the night deepened, the atmosphere grew more intimate. Candlelight flickered across the walls, and Oliver noticed how Sophie's eyes sparkled in the dim light. He realized he hadn't felt this kind of genuine fascination in years. In his world, people admired him for his money, but here, he was just another person, and yet, he felt more alive than ever. The bell jingled again, but Oliver's attention remained fixed on Sophie, and then, he caught a whisper from Sophie to the boy who had asked about the secret guest. "Patience, Jamie. All will be revealed soon," she said with a mysterious smile. Oliver froze, intrigued. What could she mean? Who was this secret guest, and why did it matter so much? The suspense tightened around him. Finally, as the night drew on, Sophie moved behind the counter. Oliver took a deep breath, realizing this was a moment he would never forget. The warmth, Sophie's kindness, and the quiet thrill of the unknown mingled together, creating a feeling he had long forgotten. Deep inside, he sensed that whatever was about to happen could change everything. Oliver Hastings, the millionaire in disguise, sat quietly in his corner, watching Sophie, waiting and hoping. He had come seeking anonymity, but he had found something far more intriguing. The spark of connection, the hint of destiny, and the promise that tonight would not end like any ordinary evening. Somewhere in the laughter, the whispered secrets, and the gentle music, a story was beginning, a story that would challenge his heart, his choices, and perhaps even his understanding of love. The next morning, Riverside Bistro opened its doors onto a calm and quiet town street. I returned, still wearing that simple gray coat, hoping to see Sophie again. The air inside smelled of fresh bread and roasted coffee, a comforting scent that mixed with the crisp autumn chill from outside. The restaurant wasn't crowded yet, but Sophie was already in motion, moving between tables, setting plates, and chatting with the early visitors. Her smile seemed even brighter in the morning light, and I felt my heart flutter just watching her. I walked slowly to the counter, pretending to look at the menu. Sophie noticed me right away. "Good morning, sir. Back so soon?" she asked, her voice cheerful and welcoming. I nodded, managing a small smile. "Good morning. Yes, I thought I'd try your breakfast today." Her eyes sparkled with a hint of curiosity, but she just nodded and went back to her tasks. I took the same table near the window, trying not to draw too much attention to myself. As I waited, I watched her. She laughed with a young couple who had just walked in, helped a child reach for a high chair, and gently corrected a staff member's mistake without sounding harsh at all. I started noticing every little detail, the way she tilted her head when she listened, the genuine sparkle in her eyes, the endless patience in her voice. I wondered how one person could be so kind, so genuine, and so completely unaware of the effect she had on everyone around her. Suddenly, a young boy ran past me, nearly tripping over my table. I caught him just in time, steadying him with a gentle hand. Sophie turned immediately, her face full of concern. "Is he okay?" she asked, rushing over. I nodded. "Yes, he's fine. Just in a little rush, that's all." Sophie smiled at me, a soft, appreciative look that made my chest tighten. For a brief moment, our eyes met, and it felt as though something unspoken passed between us. The morning continued, and I found myself drawn to Sophie in ways I couldn't quite explain. I tried to focus on ordering my breakfast quietly, but my attention kept wandering back to her. She moved around the restaurant so effortlessly, talking to customers, helping her staff, and sharing laughs with the regulars. Her energy seemed endless, and I realized I had never seen anyone like her before. I wanted so badly to speak to her, to ask about her life, but fear held me back. I couldn't reveal who I really was, not yet. After a few minutes, Sophie approached my table with a warm smile. "Your breakfast is ready," she said, placing a plate of eggs, toast, and sausage in front of me. "I hope you enjoy it." I looked up at her, feeling a strange nervousness wash over me. I'm sure it's wonderful," I replied. As she placed the plate, our hands brushed slightly again, sending a shiver right down my spine. She gave me a polite nod and walked away, completely unaware of the quiet storm she had just stirred in my heart. I ate slowly, savoring not just the food, but every moment I could spend watching her. I noticed small things I hadn't before: the way she laughed when a customer told a joke, the way she encouraged a young, nervous waitress, the way she moved with such grace and confidence. It was as if her very presence lit up the room, making everyone feel comfortable and at ease. How could someone have such an effect on people without even trying? Then came a moment that made my heart leap. A customer's bag fell to the floor, scattering items everywhere. Without even thinking, I stood up and helped gather the things, handing them back to the embarrassed woman. Sophie noticed, and her eyes widened slightly. "Oh, thank you," she said, her voice so warm and sincere. I smiled, feeling a connection, a spark I couldn't quite name. Our hands touched briefly again as I handed her the last item, and this time, the moment lasted just a little longer. I felt a jolt of something totally unfamiliar, excitement, curiosity, maybe even the beginnings of something much deeper. As the morning wore on, I overheard Sophie talking to a colleague. She was speaking about someone who had left a mark on her life long ago, someone who had disappeared suddenly but whom she had never forgotten. Her voice held a mix of sadness and hope. My heart tightened. Could she be talking about me, or was it someone else entirely? I leaned back in my chair, trying to calm the unexpected storm of feelings that rushed over me. Just then, Sophie moved to refill drinks for a nearby table. I watched how she seemed to care about everyone, from the youngest child to the elderly man sipping tea in the corner. She gave each customer her full attention, listening to their stories, remembering little details, and making them feel special. I was filled with a mixture of awe and admiration. How could one person be so selfless, so full of life and warmth? As the restaurant got busier, I noticed a familiar small boy approaching Sophie again. Do you know who the secret guest is? The boy asked excitedly. Sophie smiled gently, her eyes twinkling. Patience, Jamie. All in good time, she said, leaning down to ruffle his hair. My own curiosity deepened. A secret guest, who could that be, and why did it matter so much? I tried to listen in, hoping to catch more of the conversation without being obvious. I finished my breakfast slowly, wanting to speak to her, to ask about her life, to understand her better, but the words felt trapped in my throat. I was afraid that if I revealed too much, the magic of this moment would just disappear. I had come here seeking anonymity, but now I found myself longing for connection, for something real and heartfelt that I hadn't felt in years. The morning passed with these small interactions, me helping a child here, a quick word with Sophie there, but the tension and curiosity just kept building. I watched her laugh with friends, guide her staff through a busy rush, and offer comforting words to a nervous customer. With every gesture, I felt myself drawn deeper into the world she created, a world full of warmth, kindness, and life. Finally, as the restaurant began to quiet down after the late morning rush, Sophie moved behind the counter, arranging pastries for display. My heart was pounding. I wanted to speak, to connect, to understand this woman who had so unknowingly captivated me. But I stayed seated, just waiting, observing, and hoping that somehow, the day would give me the chance I so desperately wanted. In that quiet moment, the restaurant seemed to hold its breath. I realized that this wasn't just an ordinary day, not an ordinary visit. Something had shifted inside of me, something I couldn't yet name. A spark of curiosity, admiration, and something deeper, perhaps love, had been lit. And as Sophie laughed softly while serving another customer, I knew that whatever happened next could change everything. I, Oliver Hastings, the millionaire in disguise, felt a strange mix of hope and apprehension. I had come seeking simplicity, anonymity, and a break from my complicated life. But I had found something far more powerful. The allure of a kind heart, the warmth of genuine human connection, and the first stirrings of love that I simply could not ignore. I knew, in that moment, that the story of this day, and of Sophie Bennett, was only. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Riverside Bistro, casting a golden light over the tables and the quiet hum of conversation. Oliver Hastings remained in his usual corner, still in disguise, his eyes never leaving Sophie Bennett. She moved with her usual boundless energy, laughing with a family at one table, helping a nervous new staff member at another, and checking on the small boy, Jamie, who had so many questions about the mysterious secret guest. Oliver had spent hours observing her, but now he felt a new kind of curiosity. There was something about her that tugged at his heart, a quality he couldn't quite name, and today, he hoped he might understand a little more about the secrets hidden behind her bright smile. Sophie moved to a corner table where an elderly man was quietly sipping tea. She leaned down and whispered something that made him smile softly. Then, she returned to the counter to arrange some desserts, humming lightly to herself. Oliver noticed her eyes linger on a photograph pinned to the wall behind the counter. It was an old picture of a young girl holding a bouquet of flowers, standing next to a man in a suit. The way Sophie looked at it made Oliver's heart tighten. Was it just nostalgia, or a memory of someone she had lost? As Oliver pondered, he overheard Sophie speaking quietly to the young boy. Jamie, do you remember what I told you about the secret guest? She asked, her voice gentle. Jamie nodded, bouncing slightly on his chair. Yes, but I want to know now, he exclaimed. Sophie chuckled softly and placed her hands on his shoulders. Patience, Jamie. All will be revealed soon, she said, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. Oliver's curiosity surged. What could this secret be? And why did Sophie seem so connected to it? He tried to lean closer to hear more, but she turned toward another table, leaving the conversation hanging in the air like a whisper of a secret only a few could understand. Minutes passed, and the restaurant began to quiet down as the lunch rush ended. Sophie finally returned to the counter, stacking plates and straightening utensils. She seemed lost in thought for a moment, her fingers lightly brushing a small notebook she kept nearby. Oliver watched her every move, feeling an unfamiliar tension in his chest. He wanted to speak, to ask her what was on her mind, but he knew he must remain patient. The secret, whatever it was, felt like it was about to be revealed. Suddenly, Sophie's gaze lifted, and she looked directly toward Oliver's table. For a moment, he felt a jolt of recognition in her eyes, though she didn't know who he really was. She smiled softly, almost as if acknowledging some invisible connection between them. Then, as she passed by a side counter, she began speaking to herself quietly, almost inaudibly. Oliver leaned in, straining to catch her words. I forgive you, she whispered. The words hit Oliver like a lightning bolt. He froze mid-breath, 3 simple words, yet they carried a weight so deep that it shook him to the core. I forgive you. Who was she speaking to? Was it possible she meant him? He couldn't move, couldn't speak. His heart pounded loudly in his chest, and for a moment, he felt as though the world had stopped spinning. Memories of the past flooded Oliver's mind, mistakes he'd made, opportunities he'd missed, the busy life he had led, and the relationships he had neglected along the way. And now, in this small bistro, in a quiet town, a stranger's words so soft, genuine, and full of forgiveness, had touched something buried deep inside him. He realized that he had been given a chance, a rare and unexpected opportunity to begin again. To change, and perhaps, to find love where he had never imagined it could exist. Sophie moved back to her duties, humming softly as she carried a tray to a nearby table, completely unaware of the turmoil she had just caused. Oliver remained frozen, watching her, replaying her words over and over in his mind. I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. The repetition made him ache, made him want to stand up, to confess, to reveal who he really was right then and there. But he restrained himself, understanding that the timing had to be perfect. As he sat quietly, his mind racing, he noticed how Sophie continued to move through the restaurant with her usual grace, her energy untouched by the weight of the words she had spoken. It was as if forgiveness was a gift she carried naturally, offering it freely to those who needed it without expecting anything in return. Oliver felt a mixture of awe and admiration. How could someone be so kind, so forgiving, so completely unaware of the profound impact she had on a person's life? The rest of the afternoon passed in a series of small, meaningful moments. Sophie laughed with a young couple, helped a staff member clean a spilled drink, and handed a warm pastry to Jamie with a radiant smile. Every action, every glance, seemed to carry a hidden meaning, a subtle message that touched Oliver in ways he could not yet fully understand. Finally, as the restaurant began to quiet down for its short afternoon lull, Sophie paused near the counter, arranging a few leftover plates. Oliver gathered his courage. He spoke quietly, his voice raspy, still careful to remain in his disguise. Excuse me, can I ask you something? Sophie looked up, her eyes curious and warm. Of course, she replied, tilting her head slightly. I overheard something, Oliver began, his voice hesitant. Earlier, when you said, I forgive you. He trailed off, unsure of how to continue. Sophie's eyes widened just slightly, and a small, thoughtful smile appeared on her lips. Ah, she said softly. Yes, that was something from the past. A memory, a feeling, something I've carried with me for a long time. Oliver nodded slowly, trying to process everything. His heart still raced, but a strange calm settled over him. Those 3 words had changed everything. They had opened a door, revealed a possibility, and awakened emotions he had long buried. And now sitting in this quiet corner of the bistro watching, Sophie moved with such warmth and grace he felt the first stirrings of hope that perhaps, just perhaps, love could find him here in the most unexpected of places. The afternoon sun continued to shine through the windows, bathing the restaurant in its golden light. Oliver sat quietly, watching Sophie, listening to the soft chatter of the remaining customers, and savoring the moment. The secret had been revealed not fully, but enough to stir his heart, to spark a curiosity and a longing that would not be easily forgotten. And deep inside, he knew that this was only the beginning of something much bigger. Oliver Hastings, the millionaire in disguise, felt a quiet thrill. He had come to this town seeking anonymity and simplicity, but he had found something far more powerful. The first true connection of his life, the beautiful hint of forgiveness, and the possibility of a love that could change everything. Those 3 words had reached him, and now, he could not turn away. A new story was unfolding, and he was at its center, drawn inexorably into a world of warmth, emotion, and the beautiful mystery of a woman named Sophie Bennett. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next part of the story. The evening air had grown cooler, and the golden glow from the lights of Riverside Bistro spilled softly onto the cobblestone street. Oliver Hastings remained in his quiet corner, watching Sophie Bennett move gracefully around the restaurant. The lunch rush was long over, leaving only a few regular customers lingering over tea and desserts. The restaurant felt calm, intimate, and magical. Oliver's heart beat faster every time Sophie laughed, every time she smiled at someone or offered a comforting word. He had spent the whole afternoon observing her, feeling the pull of a connection he could no longer ignore. Her presence seemed to stir something deep inside him, something he had not felt in years: warmth, hope, and a strange sense of belonging. And now, after hearing her whisper those 3 unforgettable words, he knew he had to do more than just watch. He had to act, to speak, even if it terrified him. Oliver rose quietly and moved toward the counter, where Sophie was arranging plates of freshly baked desserts. She looked up, surprised to see him standing there. "Sir, is there something I can help you with?" she asked politely, tilting her head. Oliver hesitated, feeling the weight of his decision pressing on him. Then, he took a deep breath and spoke slowly. "Sophie, I need to tell you something important." Sophie's eyes softened, and she stepped closer. "Of course," she said gently. "You can tell me anything." Oliver's hands trembled slightly, but he tried to steady himself. "I've been watching you," he admitted quietly. "I didn't mean to intrude, but I couldn't help noticing. Your kindness, your warmth, the way you make everyone feel special. I've never seen anything like it." Sophie blinked in surprise, but she didn't step back. She simply listened, her expression open and calm. Oliver swallowed hard. "There's more," he continued, his voice lower now, almost a whisper. I'm not who you think I am. I came here in disguise. My name is Oliver Hastings. I'm a millionaire. I didn't want anyone to know. I wanted to see life as ordinary people live it. And somehow, I found you." Sophie's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't speak immediately. She studied him, as if trying to understand his words and his meaning. For a long moment, the restaurant seemed to hold its breath. The soft hum of conversation, the gentle flicker of candlelight, and the golden glow of the setting sun framed the moment perfectly. Oliver felt a wave of vulnerability, something he had not allowed himself to feel in years. He took a small step closer. "I know this may sound strange, and maybe even foolish," he said, "but I feel something I cannot ignore. You've changed something in me, and I need you to know. I care for you, more than I can say." Sophie's gaze softened, and a gentle smile curved her lips. "Oliver," she said softly, "I can see that. I can see that you're sincere, and I feel something too. Something I didn't expect, but it's real." Her words made Oliver's heart lift. The fear, the tension, the hesitation, all of it began to melt away. He reached out slowly, taking her hand in his. The warmth of her skin against his made him feel alive in a way he had never felt before. "I don't know how this will work, or what the future holds," he admitted, "but I want to try. I want to be with you, Sophie, truly, fully, without hiding anything." Sophie squeezed his hand gently, her smile growing. "Oliver, I believe in second chances. I believe in honesty and kindness. And I see all of that in you. We can take this one step at a time, together." A soft warmth filled the room as they stood there, hands entwined, hearts slowly opening to each other. Oliver felt a weight lift from his chest, replaced by a quiet joy he had never experienced. He realized that it wasn't wealth, power, or status that mattered. It was this connection, this honesty, and the chance to love and be loved in return. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of laughter, small talk, and quiet moments of closeness. Oliver and Sophie shared stories of their pasts, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. With each word, each glance, and each smile, their bond grew stronger. The restaurant seemed to fade around them, leaving only the two of them in a world of warmth, light, and possibility. As the night drew on and the last customers left, Oliver walked Sophie to the door. The cool night air brushed against their faces, but neither of them noticed. "Thank you for today," he said softly. "For everything." Sophie smiled, looking up at him with a gentle expression. "No, thank you, Oliver, for being honest, for being here, and for showing me that love can surprise us when we least expect it." Oliver took a small step closer, their hands still entwined. "I promise, Sophie, this is only the beginning. I want to be with you, to share everything with you. If you'll let me." Sophie's smile grew brighter, her eyes shining in the soft streetlight. "I'll let you," she whispered, "one step at a time." And with that, a quiet understanding passed between them, a promise of hope, love, and the beginning of a story that neither would forget. Oliver Hastings, the millionaire in disguise, had found something far more valuable than wealth, the genuine, heartfelt connection he had been searching for all his life. And Sophie Bennett, with her warmth, kindness, and openness, had found someone willing to cherish her for exactly who she was. As they stood there under the soft glow of the streetlights, the world seemed to pause around them. The spark between them had grown into something real, something they could nurture and protect together. And in that moment, Oliver knew that love unexpected, surprising, and powerful, had finally found him. The next morning arrived with a soft gray sky hanging over the quiet streets of the small town. Riverside Bistro opened as usual, but something inside felt different. There was a gentle excitement, a warm energy floating in the air. Oliver Hastings walked into the restaurant without his disguise for the first time. No glasses, no fake beard, no old jacket. He wore a simple shirt, clean jeans, and a calm, genuine smile. Some customers looked at him in surprise. They had seen him before quiet, unnoticed, but now he looked confident, open, and real. The staff whispered to one another, unsure of who he actually was. But Sophie Bennett knew instantly. Her eyes widened for a second, then softened into the warmest smile he had ever seen. She walked toward him slowly, her heart beating fast, but her steps steady. "Good morning," she said softly, her voice gentle. "Good morning," Oliver replied, a small smile pulling at his lips. "I thought it was time everyone saw me. The real me." Sophie nodded, her smile growing brighter. "I like the real you," she said. "Much more than the disguise." Oliver laughed quietly, feeling a mix of relief and joy. But before he could speak again, the restaurant door swung open. A few reporters and photographers rushed inside, their cameras flashing as they called out Oliver's name. Word had spread, the millionaire who vanished for weeks had been found in this small-town restaurant. Sophie quickly stepped in front of him, confused and startled. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice filled with concern. Oliver looked at her with pure honesty. "This is what I was hiding from. The cameras, the pressure, the questions. My life became noise. Until I found this place." He touched her hand gently. "Until I found you." Sophie's breath caught for a moment. She had always imagined a simple life, but now she stood beside someone whose world was completely different. The crowd grew louder, shouting questions about Oliver's disappearance, his disguise, and even about her. Oliver took a step forward, raising a hand. "Everyone, please," he said in a calm, firm voice. The room fell silent. "I came here for peace," he continued, "and I found more than peace. I found someone special, someone who reminded me what kindness looks like, what honesty feels like, what real connection means." He looked back at Sophie, his eyes full of pure affection. "I ask you all, respect her, respect this place, respect what I found here." The reporters exchanged glances, their aggressive excitement fading as they saw the seriousness in his face. Some lowered their cameras. Others stepped back, granting them a small pocket of quiet in the chaos. Oliver turned fully toward Sophie, ignoring the rest of the world. "Sophie, I know my life is complicated. I know being with me might not be easy, but I promise you something: if you choose me, I will protect this place, your peace, your dreams. I will choose you every day." Her eyes filled with quiet emotion. She saw the man, not the millionaire. "Oliver, I don't need fancy things. I don't need fame. I just need honesty, kindness, and someone who truly cares." She moved closer, her voice soft but sure. "And you've shown me all of that." He exhaled, a relieved smile forming on his face. "Then, will you stay with me? Will you let me be part of your world? And will you let me share mine with you?" Slowly, gently. Sophie didn't hesitate. She reached up, touched his face softly, and whispered, "Yes, Oliver, I'm with you." The room burst into quiet applause from customers, staff, and even a few of the reporters who were touched by the genuine moment. Jamie, the little boy who always asked questions, broke the silence by shouting loudly, "Does this mean you're her boyfriend now?" Everyone laughed, and a blush crept onto Sophie's cheeks. Oliver bent down slightly toward Jamie. "Yes," he said with a warm grin. "If she wants me to be." Sophie nodded shyly, and Oliver took her hand in his. It felt natural, warm, perfect. Over the next weeks, Riverside Bistro became famous not because of Oliver's wealth, but because of their love story. People visited to see the place where the millionaire found the woman who changed his heart. But Oliver made sure the restaurant stayed peaceful. No chaos, no noise. Just the same warmth and comfort it had always offered. He brought new ideas to help the bistro grow: a beautiful garden outside, new seating by the river, better supplies for the kitchen, but everything was done with Sophie's approval. She remained the heart of the place, and he stood beside her, supporting rather than controlling. Their partnership was a quiet dance of respect and affection. Every evening, after the restaurant closed, they would sit by the river together, talking about their dreams. Oliver would tell her about his childhood, the loneliness that followed him, and the suffocating pressure he never wanted again. Sophie would tell him about her father, the picture on the wall, and the words she had whispered that day he first heard her speak from the heart: "I forgive you." She finally explained it to him one evening. "Those words, I said them for my father. He left when I was young, and I held on to so much anger for years. That day, looking at his picture, I finally let it go." Oliver touched her hand gently, his gaze soft, "And those words healed me too. Without you even knowing it." He told her how he'd felt lost, how her simple act of forgiveness reminded him that it was possible to let go of the past and find peace. Their connection grew deeper with every shared story. It was soft, honest, and real. One evening, as the sun set, turning the sky a brilliant gold, just like the first day Oliver came to the bistro, he turned to Sophie with a soft smile. "Thank you," he said, "for letting me into your life." Sophie rested her head on his shoulder, the gentle current of the river flowing nearby. "Thank you," she whispered, "for choosing to stay." In that quiet moment by the river, they both understood something simple and true. Love doesn't look for money. Love doesn't look for disguise. Love looks for honesty. And they had found it in each other. Their story became a legend, whispered through the small town, the story of a millionaire who lost himself, and a woman whose 3 simple words, meant for another, changed his heart forever. Thanks so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you in the next one.